the 18th day of December 2024. We're just reminding you a couple of days to conclude the year. So tonight we'll be taking a mental flight backwards and see how this year began, what we have been able to achieve as a country, what have been the success stories and the challenges that were faced, and what we learned from 2024, and how are we going to get into 2025. Good evening, Uganda, and welcome to the show on the spot. I welcome you, all our listeners across this beautiful country, the Pearl of Africa. My name is Patrick Kamara. So tonight, let me introduce my panel, those who have made it on time here in this studio, considering that sometimes when you come to December around this time, the jam in Kampala can be a little crazy. Today, it has been bumper to bumper in most parts of our city, and it's continuing to get a bit hectic. But I want to thank those who have made it here. Professor Gerard Karieja from Uganda Management Institute, thank you so much for joining us. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Patrick. Good evening, Moses, and our listeners.
Yes, like you have had Senior Presidential Advisor, Mr. Moses Biarhanga is with us. Thank you so much for joining us. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Patrick, Gerard, our colleague who is not here, Godba, and our listeners out there.
We're always honored, gentlemen, to have you. And
now, wait. Stop, Papa. As you mentioned, we are coming to the end of the year. We have been here almost Wednesdays from January 2024 to now December. I think this is the last show of the month and the year on our side. Mm-hmm. I hope the head of radio is listening in.
Becky, you hear that, Becky?
Becky.
Service award.
The service award.
Becky.
These guys will service award. Okay.
Becky, we are waiting for the Christmas package.
I'm not going to
Agreed. I have seconded. Wholeheartedly.
Okay. You heard that? Operation Becky. Work on the service award for 2024. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here tonight. And I want, let's look back. How 2024 has been from January up to today. Largely, how do you read it? How does your barometer read this year so far, Professor Karieja?
Thank you, Patrick. This is not a public affairs talk show, so maybe I'll begin within the lens of public affairs. One of the things I've been thinking about is that at a certain point in time we had a referendum on whether we should go multi-party or not. And some people within NRM were persuaded that we should go for the movement system. I'm beginning to think that some people in NRM have decided to practice the movement system within a multi-party dispensation.
And why do you say that?
That President William Museveni wants us to go back to the movement system, and he has decided to practice it whether we are under multi-parties or not, because...
What are the indicators for you to say so?
He has not changed his stance that you can have a different political persuasion. For as long as you are for Uganda, you will come and join his government and work with him. Honorable Mao, Betty Anyu and others. Two, he has never shown admiration and promotion of political parties. Instead, actually, for those even which are in waiting, what we call opposition, his view is to diminish them even further. And whether it is by design or by coincidence, they seem to be on a very slippery slope. Any political party worth its name in this country seems to be more on the slippery slope than on a progressive slope. And the internal dynamics in most political parties show that the experiment of political parties, they need more to think about. Three, from the public affairs angle, as we move towards election, the president has confirmed that the PDM, which was conceived by Moses and his team, is a very big mobilization tool, not only for wealth creation, but for the votes that are coming during the elections, but also the circumstances surrounding the Dr. Chiza Besigye indicate that we are going into a political situation where anything perceived or considered or labeled military, treason, activist will be dealt with firmly and with a big hammer. So we may either have political violence or serious political silence in the 2026
I wish I could choose the latter.
elections.
Let me come to you, Moses Biarhanga, and I don't have a very specific question for as we begin. I just want to hear your perspective on how 2024 has been so far.
Well, first of all, I want to respond to what my young brother Kareja has raised, that President Museveni has gone back to a movement system within the multi-party system.
He has never left, after all.
So I want to remind him and the listeners out there that even during that referendum, President Museveni was saying, for us, we want to stay in the movement, but people don't want the movement system to be JECO. For us, we remain with our principles, so the principles have never changed. And even you see NRM during, or if you check with the registrar of, you call it URBS, may remember the register of companies, but by whatever name it's called, the one responsible, we registered NRM as an organization. Under the Political Parties and Organizations Act, you are free to register as a political party or a political organization. NRM registered as a political organization, not a political party. Organization meaning we are still all inclusive, irrespective of your views and so forth. So I wanted to clarify on that. So nothing has changed on him. Maybe your perception is the one which is, you saw him differently, but he has been consistent. And the Museveni, I know, is always consistent. Now, in the year, yes, I think you mentioned about PDM. Throughout, because he mentioned it. The president is now in the countryside. He's now in Bugisu. Today he was meeting political leaders from Bugisu sub-region. He has been, in the recent past, has been in Bukedi, Teso sub-region, Karamoja sub-region, Sebe, now is in Bugisu. But sometime last year we did actually West Nile, Madi, and Masaka, Puerto Masaka. So he's able now to go around and see few, those sub-regions he meets goes to 3 different farms the first day to check on some of the PDM beneficiaries, to hear their experience, listen to them, see what they are doing, pick and assess the program as it is moving on. For me, this financial inclusion part of PDM is so far doing well. I think about 2 million households have so far been reached on average. Today I was meeting RCCs from Kampala and DSOs and NRM chairpersons from Kampala on PDM in Kampala alone. Kampala has so far received 19.6 billion under PDM. It has received 17 billion under Emioga. This is lots of money to go to the people there to include them in financial inclusion, so that they're able to do something for themselves, giving them less cheap capital. It has some interest, but cheap interest, low interest rate capital with good terms of payment. You're not required to put in collateral. Collateral is yourself and what you're going to do. If it is a Mioga, it is your group which says that's one so can pay back, and they know you well than anybody else, as long as you're in that same trade. So for me, it is stand out. If we continue, there are some little issues here and there within PDM. Those will be sorted, administrative issues and so forth. So there used to be some delays in disbursement of funds, but we are aware of all this. sorting them administratively. But the most important thing is when the money is reaching the people. And Patrick, you're going to see the effect of this. Because when people earn income, they spend. Consumption, they spend on consumption. And when they spend on consumption, if those goods they are spending on are locally manufactured or made,
the economy thrives.
The economy thrives. So those who have been saying the economy, this is the solution to some of the challenges to make the economy be boosted much further. So if you're going to invest, so those who are in manufacturing and so forth, you are going to see the demand going up because the people buying have economists what they call effective demand. They have money to purchase what you're producing. So that will have a very positive effect on the economy generally. And I foresee 2025, 2026, 2027 as good years economically, unless something serious like COVID happens. COVID will affect the whole world. But if things going the way they are, being constant, we must see, from an economic point of view, we shall see good returns in the coming years.
But Professor Karija, do you see this money is like a loan, right? Do you see Ugandans able to pay back the money, or maybe as we go 2025, the president could say, you know what, leave my people, and then it also becomes a campaign tool?
For any policy to be accepted or for it to be legitimate, it has three major. One can have different categories, but there's what we call procedural legitimacy, which is ensuring that studies are done, things are done in the proper way. Then there's what we call feasibility legitimacy, whether it makes economic sense or rationality and so forth. And then what we call substantive legitimacy, which is acceptance in the public. Something can be very sound, can be done in the proper way, but it has substantive legitimacy issues. PDM largely fulfilled all the three.
Okay.
And because of its political feasibility, both to the NRM as a ruling party and to all politicians. You'll find very few politicians who are bothered about PDM, other than the feasibility and the procedural issues, but not the substantive, the question of benefit and so forth. And therefore, to me, I will not be surprised if at the end of the day, the substantive legitimacy overwhelms, that is, the political feasibility overwhelms, regardless of whether people pay back or not, and so forth, whether they use it for X or Y. And that is partly because at the macro level, the fundamentals have been largely fixed, holding inflation, the exchange rate, the growth rate. But at micro level, the fixing of the macro has not yet, the broader national has not yet translated into the fixing of the micro. We are still crying, the economy is hard, we are not raising enough money, we don't have enough money in the pocket, and so on and so forth. So I see that there will be a strong possibility that there might be shifts in the feasibility and procedural issues, that is in terms of the interest rates, either being revised, the payment dates being postponed, maybe even some pardons being brought about by the president. Then again, beyond the, if you permit me, just one more issue in terms of service delivery. There's still a huge service delivery deficit in the country, but I believe that one of the bold steps was the rationalization, the RAPEX, which was largely successful apart from the coffee question, the coffee politics, and the coffee deal or bill. We hope that the principles of the RAPEX will be carried through, so that we have a more efficient service delivery mechanism beyond what has been rationalized. I think Ugandans are still crying for more rationalization.
Professor.
But for PDM,
Professor Gerald Karija and Mr. Moses Biaranga. Gentlemen, we're going to take a break.
A what?
We're taking a mega milk break. Welcome back to 933 KFM, and this is the Hot Seat. My name is Patrick Kamara. My guest this evening, I have Senior Presidential Advisor Mr. Moses Biaranga and Professor Gerald Karija from Uganda Management Institute, and we're trying to look into 2024. What has it been like? And Moses, it looks like a principal, the president, the chief executive of the country, as he moves around looking at how PDM is performing, he's also doing some kind of a dry run for a presidential campaign, isn't he? It's an advantage he takes off his position.
That's your opinion and interpretation. But I wanted to respond to
the campaign is on.
The president.
The rallies are on.
The president is going around promoting PDM. That's not a political campaign. Political campaigns will come next year when they are declared. So we shall be there. Now on the service delivery. If Uganda, I think Ugandans need to know their role. Was it last week or so, I had you here hosting the Honorable Betty Kami and someone else, for instance, on issues of corruption. But corruption is also a manifestation of areas of poor service delivery or lack of it. Let me give you an example. Look at the health sector, for instance. All health centers at different levels receive drugs from the national medical stores. Now, the health center 4 and above, the health center 4, the district hospital, regional referral, and so forth, for them, they have a specified budget. I think for the regional referral, it's about, I will check, about 2 billion or thereabout, or 1.5 billion a year. So they are supposed to request from national medical stores the drugs they want, the medicines they want to, according to their needs from the particular area. You might find an area has malaria, the other doesn't have malaria. So you don't have, if you are in an area like Kampala, where the malaria incidence is low, you're not like in the Teso area where malaria incidence is high, so you need to ask for the same amount of malaria drugs, but you have your budget, how to manage it. And I remember seeing one, I think was it in the last financial year, the women's hospital here in Kampala demanded less than their budget. They had more drugs to ask for than they did ask for according to their budget. It's like you have a budget of 1 billion, you in a year use about 800 million. Now, my question would be, yes, that's okay if you have used less than was budgeted for, but did anybody go there and the people were told there was no drugs? When you haven't utilized all your budget? No, that is a good area of concern. But coming to the general service delivery, the health center 3s, for instance, receive a specified package for them. They don't demand, well, I want this. They give them a specified package every 2 months. But the reports you hear is that, we went to the health center 3, when even the drugs had come the week before, they told us, the nurse or so and so, they said there was no medicine. But this health center 3 is in a sub-county. A sub-county has a sub-county council with the chairman, LCC, with councillors, with the sub-county chief and the other administrative staff. So this health center 3 is below this sub-county in terms of administration. Now, when those incidences of drugs disappearing from health center 3s leading to poor service delivery, or people being handled poorly by the staff there, have these people, like the councillors, ever known their role? Or the voters who go and face these challenges in those health center 3s, do they put to task the elected leaders? But why do we elect you and then we go to health center, there's nothing, we find we are treated like this? And then that sub-county where that health center 3 is under a district, and that sub-county has a councillor in the district council.
So are you trying to say the people have not demanded what is theirs?
Yes.
You are choosing them of what?
Well, I'm sensitizing them that they have the right, they have the powers. The LCCD chairperson is an elected person, has the power to ask the head of the health center CEO or whoever that how come people are complaining that your staff are mistreating the patients, or how come that you can. There's a time, sometime back, our office, like 10 years ago, went to some health center in Mukono there, asked the space and said, okay, can you show us people who have received the drugs, medicine in this 1 month? They gave them a list. But you see, because they record the camera from village X, from this parish, from this village, they record your details. And some cases, when they went there, they were not there. But you see, you don't have to wait for someone to come from Kampala to show you what to do. When the councillor, you can demand for that message, that information. If you went to say, okay, you have received the drugs in the last 2 months, who were the recipients? Whom did you treat? Whom you gave this? They will give you. They have a list. Now, since this is your own parishes, you can even go and say, okay, in this sub-county we have 5 parishes. We have which one has a councillor? You councillor. These people are from your parish. These patients, they go and check. We're giving you a week or 2 weeks to come back and report. Now, if you did that, you will weed out some of those things. So, it's the same for education. You say people will tell you, our teachers are not teaching, blah, blah, blah. At the time I went to a district, I think it was a leader, sometime back, and then the other district was telling me that some of the teachers here, they are riding borders. They're not teaching. I said, but other district, do you know your role? You don't have to tell me that. You can cause those teachers to be punished, because remember with the decentralization, the primary school teachers and all primary schools are under the district local government.
Okay, let me.
So wherever this is happening, teachers are not teaching. What is the district local government doing about it? Do you know that you have the role to improve service delivery in your districts or in your cities or your town councils?
Yeah. So Moses is talking about having a vibrant citizenry. Yeah. We could be, in a way, a double-edged sword. If we had people who can demand their right, who know their responsibility, this country would change. Actually, even the politics of the country would change. Yeah. And in fact, even the leaders would be very much on tenterhooks to know that they have to do things right. Can we reach that level where there's that vibrancy in the people, and then Ugandans will never be taken for right anymore? You take on that?
You see, the dilemma of democracy, or the diabolics in democracy, is such that even when you have a very active citizenry, sometimes it can also be misunderstood. It is perceived or alleged or thought that one of the reasons why there is shrinking civil society space is because it was increasing civic competence that Moses is demanding for. People were being trained, socialized to hold the state to account. Even what one would call neighborhood talks, the barazas, which were being run by the office of the Prime Minister, also vanished. So yes, it's good to have a strong citizenry, but also the framework and mechanisms for increasing civic competence, in a way, is at a decline. It is shrinking. But I agree that it's good to have a strong citizenry that can hold those who are in power to account. I think I also agree with Moses that most leaders shouldn't be where they are now, not only even at the local government level. But you see, also, in many ways, we have defeated the basic principle of decentralization, which is subsidiarity, solving lower level problems at the least point because of re-centralization of a number of functions. So we have decentralization in a flux, and that creates confusion. The caliber of the leadership, and also the preoccupation that political leadership is more of a position of acquisition of wealth and power, and less as a point of service, is a socialization that many politicians have lost, and maybe even as citizenry. So I think there's a need for revitalizing what we would call civic culture, so that in view of Moses' issue, so that we strengthen civic competences and as well sieve politicians. Maybe it's high time that we have an extra criteria beyond qualifications. We have idiot professors, we have idiot politicians. And okay, sorry, maybe I should use another word. So it degrades our nation.
Professor Gerard Karija and Mr. Moses Yaranga, gentlemen, we're going to take a break. When we come back, make a milk break, and when we come back, let's look into the...
I think I have taken some milk milk. So.
Rationalization and the mergers that has happened this year, whether that is going to take us to another level in the service delivery agenda. We'll be right. Welcome back to 933 KFM, and this is the Hot Seat. My name is Patrick Amara, and my guest this evening, I have Senior Presidential Advisor Mr. Moses Yaranga and Professor Gerard Karija from Uganda Management Institute. Gentlemen, this year we have seen more effort in the drive to rationalization and the merger of government agencies.
But before that, I had mentioned something earlier for people here to hear, that for medicines, as I said, from Health Center for and above, their money is put at national medical stores, so they request, they make requests to apply what they need. Now, on average, like Mulago Hospital gets, like this financial year, 8.8 billion for medicines alone. Kawempe regional referral, 6.5 billion. Kirudu, 6.5 billion. Uganda Heart Institute, 3.6 billion. Utabika Hospital, 3.5 billion.
For medicine? Only
for medicine, yeah.
Okay.
Mulago Specialized Women Hospital, 2.5 billion. Now, the referrals get about 2.8 billion shillings. Then the General Hospital, about 800 million shillings. Health Center 4, on average, 250 million shillings. Now, if people are following up these monies in terms of drugs to their health centers or their hospitals, their ABCD.
That sounds some good money, Professor. That's all, you know, at a health center for 200 million or a general hospital 800 million in a hospital in Kanungu, that looks like some good money.
It is substantive. The question is, are we getting value for money? Is that the kind of money actually released for?
Yes, from Parliament. Even the MPs could follow up this. Kirudu, 6.5 billion. Kawempe, 6.5 billion. So these are for medicines alone. Forget about salaries. Forget about maintenance or cleanliness. That's another something. That's different money. This one goes to medical stores where they're supposed to apply to get medicines they want according to the diseases they're handling in their area. And the leaders know.
Why do you think, Professor, there seems to be a cry of poor service delivery, especially in the medical sector, public hospitals, and yet what the figures Moses is reading, that looks like some substantial amount of money, only for medicine alone?
Of course, there are a number of explanations. One of them is the complicity and the lack of supervision and inspection by the different actors, like the politicians, as they said, but also the technical people. 2, corruption. We've had you remember some of the cases that have been unearthed by the State House Health Monitoring Unit, to the extent that even there are sometimes ghost health facilities. So corruption is still a very big problem in this country, especially syndicated corruption. And the other one is also the dishonesty we have in our technical staff, the people who run some of these facilities. So I think I want to agree with Moses here that increased vigilance from the population and other actors is one way to help, but also maybe we need to further reconfigure the service delivery mechanism so that there is a lot of exposure of what's going on and awareness of what is where, and clear mechanisms of holding people to account, really, especially in this matter, the medical personnel.
Okay. Can we change gears now? Because the rationalization and merger. in some cases, we have seen, especially the coffee issue, created a lot of the Uganda Coffee Development Authority, a lot of hullabaloo. But at where we stand right now, should we expect better public service delivery because of these mergers? Or is it going to be, as the people try to fit in and, find their role in the ministry?
You see, well, depending...
Are we not always lose some people with some good skills and to look for greener
in most of the cases, the technical people will be or are going to be retained or have been retained for those which have already been rationalized, like REA, rural electrification agency. Some were retained, some could not be retained. So, but on the whole, for the areas you mentioned, UCDA and the others, you see, those which, especially in the agriculture sector, where the part of the role was to give out inputs to the farmers, that role, even before rationalization, was taken over by PDA. Because now, if UCDA was giving me coffee seedlings, if NAS was giving me oranges and other inputs, the shift has been done that under PDM, the farmer gets supplies for the money from their own parish circle, and the circle gives you the cash. You go and purchase those items yourself. So that role has already gone. But the supervisory, the other roles like quality control, which was being carried out by UCDA, it will still be carried out by the ministry. Because even then, they were also complementary. Some would be carried out by the agency itself, but others they would be carried out by the ministry. Like in the case of coffee, for instance, the research has always been done by NARO, and that narrow bit of research still remains, while the export licenses would still be given by the ministry for the coffee. So it's the same. What is important is that the technical know-how, the agronomy issue, which the agronomists will be handling. You also still have the issue of decentralization, because in the case of agriculture, while they had these bodies on top, NADS, DDA, UCDA, the extension officer, the extension staff, the veterinary officers, the agronomists, the fisheries officers are under the district's administrations. Still, you go back to the decentralization. Even when UCDA is there or not there, the person is supposed to give extension staff information to farmers on how to grow and look after coffee and how to have a seat well and so forth. Is the sub-county agriculture officer. It's the district agriculture officer. And those are still there. They are not rationalized.
Professor, it appears the fight was verbally intense in terms of rationalizing Uganda Coffee Development Authority taking back the Ministry of Agriculture. I don't know whether you have followed this keenly, but what could have been the biggest fear for the people this year when this subject came up for debate?
Rationalization, the rationalization of government agencies and public expenditure policy primarily is to make the government more efficient and effective, and also to minimize duplication, redundancies, and increase affordability. And also some of the agencies which had outlived their usefulness to be debunked. That having been said, you notice that a number of agencies, they were not controversial. It's a few that became controversial towards the end of the rationalization process. UNRA, UCDA, and so forth. But eventually the most pronounced was the Uganda Coffee Development Authority. My personal view as a student of political science is that it's because its substantive legitimacy was questioned, especially the political opposition, particularly in Uganda, where NRM had got a beating in the previous election, had turned it into a hot political issue. And the champions of why UCDA should stay where by presence, a good number of them MPs from Uganda. To the extent that when the president held an address, all testimonies of what is going on were from Uganda.
What was meant to be a national address somehow looked like a Buganda address.
And even the choice of languages to be used, much as we all know that Uganda is widely spoken, it was mainly English and Uganda. We have seen the president previously have national addresses where other local languages have also been given prominence. But this time, I hope I'm not reading much, but that was what was. So because it was being turned into a political issue, that's one of the reasons. And then what that meant was that people were saying, well, you have followed the right procedures, you've told us all these reasons, but we think there's something you're hiding. And the president was like, wait a minute, I cannot hide, yet I'm the champion of this. So he felt being politically undermined, and he had to politically intervene because procedurally and in terms of feasibility, the battle was done. Two, it was also in the same vein to avoid making it a political campaign issue. It is also suggested that a number of actors from those agencies made a lot of money by the nature of the activities that were involved. The selling of seedlings, the processing of distribution, and so forth. And that is why we had words like parasite, predator. And now the question was that, well, and you saw some of the people who gave testimony, they're saying they have not been paid, they supplied the government. So I think there was also a feeling that some of the wrong decisions or the corruption that was perceived or being done in those agencies was painting government negatively.
All right.
Lastly, there was talk of exchange of money for and against the coffee question, because it's a huge industry. And people were also not comfortable with the previous big coffee debates, including Petroni.
That one.
That one.
All right, gentlemen, we're going to take a mega milk break. When we come back, let's look into the politics 2.0, because we saw the coming in of a new leader of opposition, and then of course the former leader of opposition, Honorable Mpuga, seems to have moved away from NUP, is now beginning his own political movement. But also senior leaders in government were having trouble with the United States and the UK, you know, almost more or less indicting them. What does that mean for our country as we move to 2025? Welcome back to 933 KFM. And this is the Hot Seat. My name is Patrick Amara. My guest this evening, Professor Gerard Karieja from Uganda Management Institute, and Mr. Moses Byarhanga, Senior Presidential Advisor. Now, gentlemen, we have seen this year also quite heated action in the area of politics. We saw a new leader of opposition, my friend Joel Senyonyi, replacing Mr. The Honorable Matthias Mpuga, who seems now to be taking a different direction. Matthias Mpuga in Buganda, the direction he's taking, isn't his journey going to get bogged down by the NUP wave in Buganda? It appears NUP is very strong. Can he make any political headway in what he's doing, or is probably going to be swimming against the current in the year that we come into? Professor,
permit me to expound on the point I made earlier, that if you did an anatomy of most political parties, they actually don't exist, because political parties aggregate interests and pursue those interests, including power. Most people join political parties not for the pursuit of aggregated interests. That's why they don't subject themselves to political parties, but the pursuit of personal ambition. Two, we are under a multi-party dispensation, but we're in practice under the movement system as conceived by NRM and NRA for that matter. In my view, the Honorable Mpuga is also now trying to see how best he can have his political fortunes within the practice of the movement system, but within the legal framework of a multi-party dispensation. And therefore, there is a strong possibility that we're seeing the Mao way.
You know, when we see a tweet from a chief of defense forces in praise of Mpuga, actually calling him a presidential material, considering where he comes from, is that helpful or damaging?
It depends on what Honorable Mpuga is pursuing. He's not here to tell us, but the reading on the wall is that he has chosen not to fight within NUP and reform it, and therefore come up with or be within another outfit. And it won't be surprising if that is in transition to the NRM.
Mr. Moses Biaranga, in the last presidential or general election, really the opposition, especially NUP, did very well in Buganda. And I'm sure for you as a presidential advisor, you're working very hard to regain that support that you had in Buganda. Now you see, it appears at the top, the leaders in NUP have had their own conflicts. Some are saying the conflicts are actually sponsored by you, the NRM. But do you see yourselves coming back in Buganda majorly like you ever did back in the day?
Sure, there's no doubt about it. You see, even that performance you talk about, Chagora, you go to 1.9 million votes in Buganda. President Museveni got 1,050,000 votes in Buganda. The difference between Kyagulanyi and President Museveni in Buganda was about 900,000 votes. And the out of the 900,000 votes, 500,000 were within Kampala and Wakiso. So basically, outside Kampala and Wakiso, you have only 400,000, which is easy to recover with the ongoings. And also, with people now seeing, like the programs, the NRM promised, the PDM, the MIOGA are working. Our role now is to ensure that, to sensitize the population, to ensure that those programs reach the people, improve on service delivery. So to recover that 400,000 in Uganda is not a big challenge, as far as I'm concerned, and we should have recovered it and do much better in Uganda and elsewhere in the country. So that one shouldn't surprise you. The Mpuga with the issue with the Kyagulanyi or NUP as such, it was bound to happen. I was seeing it.
Why? No.
Because even before the outburst, there was friction between those who thought they were original NUP, the People Power group, and the Mpuga group are the people who joined in from DP. So that friction has been there. It was like you, Mpuga, you found us in our thing. You came, you used us, through us you became an MP again. Maybe you would have lost if you had remained in your DP. But now you become leader of opposition. So those who were like, in quotes, the original NUP, those who are from People Power, were not comfortable with Mpuga being the leader of opposition because they thought they should have been theirs. And now it went back to them. The Senyanis are the ones who are in the People Power, why this one just joined later. So that was bound to happen. Now the question is how they are going to manage it. But you see, since NUP has turned out to be a regional party, outside of Uganda, it has only 2 MPs outside of Uganda, which is dangerous for them as a party, in my opinion. Now, going back to those areas to convince them that you can be a party for a national party is going to be very, very huge, a very huge task for them to convince anybody outside Uganda again. But even within Uganda, I don't see them commanding that wave as it was last time.
Was it, Professor, your view, President Yoweri Museveni had promised that he's going to dismet the opposition, and no wonder. Are these the likely results of him working to dismet the opposition, for them to be in disarray like they are now?
It is on script, and Moses is smiling.
Does that include Dr. Besige also finding himself incarcerated, having his Christmas in Lozera?
Yes.
Gentlemen, I'm going to ask for you become very, very hard today to interview. Sometimes you give me one word answer, but I want to thank you so much. And as you try to conclude, I want to, as you make your concluding remarks, to make a mental reflect back from January to today, and also project how we're going to have, what kind of 2025 we're going to have. Let me begin with you, Mr. Moses Biarhanga.
Well, I want to go back to I love the economy, performance of the economy. I think things remaining constant, meaning you don't have catastrophes like we had COVID or so, things like that. The economy is going to perform much better in 2025 as compared to the years before, partly because of these programs like PDM. You see, government putting in 1 trillion in the economy to help people enjoy the money economy is a very, very big push. And now we are talking of almost close to 3 trillion, if you include the money for this current financial year being also spent in this coming year. That's a lot of money in the economy, and through the issue, as I said earlier, through consumption and so forth, the positive effect will boost the economy much higher.
Mr. Moses Biarhanga, thank you so much.
And also, you have things like coffee. Our coffee exports, like in the last coffee year, reached up to $1.4 billion. Both the volume went up, and although the price had gone up because of Brazil having some challenges, but that money, the coffee farmers, see these days they sell cash. Now, when they get the cash, it has a positive effect on the economy.
And I'm sure in the next 3 years, we're likely to raise almost $20 million. The way how corporate Ugandans have gone into coffee big time. I worry, though, that probably if Vietnam and Brazil comes back, it could change. What's going to be your parting shot, Professor Karieja?
My parting shot is that we are yet to see the effects of rationalization. We would like to see the translation of the fundamentals at the macro level being translated into changes and transformation at the micro level. And politically, we've seen a more chaotic year, which is like a harbinger for the coming year. We are likely to see more political chaos.
Today you sounded like a prophet of doom, but I also know you're a man of faith, so probably you pray for your country. Professor Gerard Karieja, I want to thank you so much for your time.
We wish people a Merry Christmas.
Professor Gerard Karieja, thank you so much, and Mr. Moses Biarhanga, thank you so much, gentlemen. And for those of you who have been listening, we want to thank you for the privilege of your company. Merry Christmas. Good night and God bless you, gang.